Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Nico Lagan, who addresses us men in the context of masculinity. It's a topic that, from our opinion, is very necessary. Masculinity does not mean men are in control, does not mean men dominate. It does mean that we men are created. God created us to serve, to be the protector of those within our sphere of influence. I use the term frequently, we are to be the rock of the family, and to be that way is to have a good foundational character, values, understanding, and we reach out to those within our sphere of influence with a very loving, serving heart. Marty, maybe a controversial topic for some women. Help us with this topic. It's a very valuable topic. What can our listeners gain from Nico?
I love Nico's passion to help men become the fathers of their sons and daughters that he never had. We see in our society today, children are hurting, they're masking, and they're taking drugs. They're doing whatever they can to feel accepted. Nico has a message for fathers.
It is a great testimony. Men, let's rally around this. Let's work together. And again, please, it's not a matter of any type of hierarchy, but it is being who we were designed and created to be. Let's listen and learn together. Nico, it is great to have you with us. Your background is such that by your own description, you chased manhood and you were hoping for, I'm going to use the term, father figure that perhaps you did not have. But one of the emphases of this podcast is for men to be the rock of the family. That is, I'm going to use the term deserving rock of the family, to be the good leader without being dictatorial and otherwise autocratic. But Nick, you've got a great insight into this, and I wonder if you'd take us just very briefly from your background, but most importantly, from today forward, what you're emphasizing. Nick, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. Started when I was 14, when my dad left. Like Steve Harvey says, when a father leaves his son, he leaves a hole in his soul, in his shape. Like the kid will be chasing to fill that hole for the rest of for the rest of his life. And this is what I did without knowing, and it lasted for I went down within a year. I was a high school dropout. I was an addict. I was selling drugs. I was an alcoholic. I was a thief. I was lucky not to end up in jail, but Some of my friends did. Some of my friends died in prison. And this lasted for years. This lasted until my early 20s, until I decided to go back to school, until one phone call from my mother made me accountable for the first time in my life. And yeah, that's been now my knowledge, my chasing after knowledge, chasing after men that know more than I do, have been going on for almost 22 years now. And now this is all I do. I was in high-end sales. I was a sales engineer for one of the biggest telecommunication companies in Canada until about 14 months ago, and until I quit my job to to do my own thing full time. But now I help boys become men, men become good men, and good men find purpose.
Nick, thank you for that life purpose. I'm very curious, based on what you just said, was your mom a very strong parent? Was that kind of the turning point in your life? I mean, was she strong enough to say, Nick, you got to stop doing what you're doing type thing?
No, absolutely not. I would say, without blaming her, like, I don't blame her for those 6 7 years that I gone through, because they were my decisions. She didn't help, but it wasn't her fault directly. Although I would argue today, looking back, she gave up. At one point, I was just too much to handle. She couldn't deal with me anymore. And the worst part is that my mom did find another man that was one of the best guys I've ever met in my life. But by the time he showed up, I wasn't listening anymore. I wasn't paying attention anymore. Like, I knew better. I did not need somebody I thought was weak to teach me what it was to be a man. I could find it on my own. It breaks my heart to say this, but it is still a reality. Women cannot teach a boy how to become a man. This, we need to accept it from now on. We have 30% of our boys right now, between 30% to 40%, depending on the study that you look at, is showing boys are being raised in houses where their fathers are not present. And by present, I mean there was a divorce, there was a separation. The son is not under the tutelage of his father. I used to be an exception. Now it's almost a rule. Now it's almost like it's a third. We're talking almost a third of boys now. The ramifications are insane. Like, having high school dropouts, having kids that can behave well and that have behavioral problems, having kids. Do you know that 90% of kids that live on the street comes from single motherhood? Like, they come from single mothers. If you start going down the list of everything that happens when you have a single mother and a son without the supervision of a father, it's insane what actually happens to that son. And we need to stop looking at it with our feelings and say, oh yeah, but it's not nice for you to say it. I don't really care that it's nice or not. Emotions of the mother is not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about not generating boys that's going to go through what I've been through. Because again, I used to be the exception. Now it's not the exception anymore. It's just getting worse. So we need to accept that, in the same way as a father cannot teach a little girl how to become a woman, a woman cannot teach her son how to become a man. It's her responsibility. And I wish my mother would have done that, would have found good men when my dad left. She would have found good men to replace him. They don't need to be a partner. They could be an uncle, a grandfather. They could be. I found men through martial arts. In my early 20s, this is what completely changed my life, is stepping into a martial art gym. That changed me. But I wish that my mother would have been aware enough, would have been, maybe put her ego aside and just say, this is not about me, it's about my son.
I appreciate everything you're saying, Nick. We are in total alignment with everything you said. I want to build a little bit on your statement. Women are not designed, women cannot raise a son as well as a man can. I want to reflect on the listener who might be thinking, the female listener right now, who might say, I'm a strong woman. I'm offended by what you said. I don't need no stinking man kind of thing. I can raise my son the way he needs to be raised. Nick, how do you work with a strong-willed lady like that?
This, if she's irritated right now, I'll irritate her more. A feminist is only a feminist until it's time to do man stuff. 96% to 98% of the most dangerous jobs are done by men. Who do you think you call when you need somebody to help you? If you need a police officer, that's 95% are men. If you look at firefighters, it's the same numbers. If you look at security agent, it's the same numbers. If you look at construction workers, they're almost 95 to 100% men. All the work that needs to get done that maintains the society in which we live in today is done by men. So to say, forget the family part, but for a woman to be so privileged to think that she doesn't need a man, guess what? It's true. You don't need one man. You need an army of men to allow you to live in the society that we live in today, because this society was not built by women. This society was built by men for their families. As we were saying before we started recording, men serve. If you want to be a leader, that means you need to serve first. And that's how this society was built, by men, by blood, by their death. It was not an easy process, but it is men that build societies. It is men that maintains it. So for women to not believe that they need men, that just proves to which point we're detached from what goes on behind the scene and how privileged we've become as a society. But when it comes to family, a woman's job when it comes to a boy is to show him how to become a boy, how to show him emotional intelligence. That comes from the mother. To love him, to show him what compassion is, to show him to be kind, to show him to be understanding, to be in touch with his emotion. This is the role of a mother. But once the mother formed a young boy into a boy, it is the job of a father to make him a man, to show him the skills, what it actually takes to be a man. Because one of the things, again, that we don't like to talk about today is a woman, when she becomes an age of procreating, we assume that she's a woman. A man is only judged by what he brings to the table. There's a good reason why 40% of men never procreate, is because women are not interested by them. Why? Because they don't bring enough to the table. Study shows that 95% of women fight for 5% of men. The top 5% of men literally have their choices of women. They get whatever they want because women see them as value. Why? Because they have resources and because they bring a stability. They bring protection. They are providers. They have all the skills, all the virtues that women look for. So to say that they don't need men, it's absolutely incorrect, because women cannot teach those values to boys. Only men can. You know what I needed when I was 14 years old? I needed somebody to smack me in the back of the head and say, you know what, brother, what you're doing right now is not correct. You're a weak man right now. You're chasing selfishness. This is the attitude of a weak man. And I needed somebody with discipline. This normally does not come from the mother. This comes from the father's side. This is, or you know what? If you look at it from energy, there's feminine energy, that's the emotional part, and there's the masculine energy, that's more the disciplinary part. So call it the way you want. There is a need for both parents to be there, and a woman cannot do it alone. Because think about it this way: remove the family part and just try to do two things at the same time. What happens? You normally massacre both. You normally don't do either properly because you're not concentrating on one at a time. That's how our brain works. I think studies shows that 95 or 96% of people cannot multitask. We really just refocus our attention on one thing to the other, but we can't do both at the same time. So what makes you believe what makes single mothers believe that they can do both, that they can be the dad and the mother at the same time? It's no different. My mother tried to do both, and you know what happened? She didn't teach me any.
Nick, I'm going to build just a little bit on the expression that some women say, I don't need no stinking man. I think what's behind that statement is, I don't need no stinking man who is not willing to provide, who's not willing to protect, who's not willing to serve. There are too many men who have gone around the world impregnating women, leaving kids behind. That's why we have, from my perception and statistics prove it, so many women who are single family raisers. They're the ones who are raising the family because we men are not staying with them. Quite honestly, sometimes some men think their manhood is between their legs. It's that kind of a thing. But Nick, what do you put
It's
that in your own
incorrect.
thoughts?
It's incorrect. The statistics are not showing that at all. On the contrary, 70 to 90% of divorces are initiated by women. 90% of those cases, they get the children. 90% of divorces, women get the children. Not because fathers are less of, they're less needed, because there's a massive bias in family law in our society today that thinks that women are more important when it comes to parenthood, which is completely incorrect. Both parents, there's a good reason God created two. They created a man and a woman because we're supposed to be part of it, and we're supposed to do two different things. One of the biggest thing that we see today is that women think there's no gender roles. But again, completely incorrect. There are things I do a lot better than any woman out there, but vice versa is also true. There's things that women do a lot better than men do, and it's okay. I was a sales engineer, so engineering background. I can tell you that 95% of my team was men. Why? Because men like things while women love people. There's a good reason why you look in school for engineering, it is between 90 and 100% men. If you look at medical school now, not just nursing, but in Canada, they're showing that about 70% of people that are studying medicine are women. And I guarantee you that it's going to become higher than that. It's going to be the same state as what we see for nurses. It's 86.6% of nurses are women. Why? Because they like to help people. Women are emotional. They love to have compassion for others. They love to help people. So it only makes sense that in medicine, women are there because they're meant to be mothers. I'd much rather have a female doctor than a masculine one. When I'm in pain, I don't know that I want a guy like me to tell me to suck it up. If something's going on, I want to have a bit of compassion, and women are better at that. We need to start looking at it in a holistic way and to stop lying to ourselves to say, what are the things that women do better? What are the things that men do better? Look at the statistics because it does show it, but we need both. Men and women are supposed to polarize each other. We're not supposed to be the same. And right now, this is what we're trying to do. And especially when it comes to women, unfortunately, are trying to become more like men. They're trying to be more masculine in their energy, and they wonder why they can't get men. They wonder why men are not attracted to that. I'm not attracted by a masculine woman. Why would I be? I'm masculine enough for the both of us. I don't need another man in my relationship. I want somebody that's the complete opposite of what I am. So that myth that men are just going left and right, impregnating everywhere, is not what statistics are showing you. Women are destroying the relationship between men and women. And I'm not saying it's only the fault of women. That's not what I'm saying. But when it comes to the divorce rate, it is initiated by women. And we're talking 70 to 90% depending on their education level. 70% if she's high school educated, 90% if she's university educated. Basically, the more educated she is, the more she thinks like a man. It's really messed up when you think about it, but this is what the numbers are showing. You know, for the longest time, I just listened to one side of the story when it came to why my father left. I only listened to my mother's side of the things because my dad left and I was 14 years old. I wasn't interested in knowing his opinion. I wish he didn't die when I was 28 or 29, that I could have that conversation with him today. But looking at the action of my mother and the way she responds to some of the things, I don't have a good relationship with my mother. Let's call it blunt. And I can see some of the patterns that she has with me, that if she's able to treat me like that as her son, I can only imagine what she did to my father. I'm not excusing what my father did because he was a coward, but I'm saying that she did not make it easy on him to stay either, just by the interaction that I have with my mother as a man. If she can treat me like this, I can only imagine what she could have done, what she could have said to my father. And I have no proof of this, but I'm a big fan of psychology, and it's been going on for years. We definitely, and this is as much as men and women, because men right now are not real men anymore either. To go back to what you were saying, men are not ready to serve. Men are selfish. They don't care about anything else except themselves. I don't even know that they have deep rooted values. They have none. We're not teaching that to our boys anymore. So it goes on the man's side and on the women's side. It's almost like we need to sit down at a table and just take a sheet of paper, split it right down the middle, and say, those are normally the roles of a mother. Those are the roles of a father. Those are the roles of a woman. Those are the roles of a man. And let's agree that we'll concentrate on those and try to make it work together, to understand that we are supposed to be a unit. We're not supposed to be the same.
Totally agree with everything you're saying. Now, for the single lady who's listening, she is, if not believing everything you're saying, her intuition says Everything you're saying sounds right. How
Mhm.
does she go from here? You mentioned earlier in this conversation, find some man, could be an uncle, doesn't even have to be a biological man in the family. Find someone who is willing to serve and be that protector. I call it the rock of the family,
Mhm.
and have that man associate with your son and mentor. I'll use that term,
Mhm.
mentor your
Yep.
son. Is that a viable approach for the single mom right now?
1,000,000%, yes. The two places I would look, I believe, I believe that a man needs five things. He needs to have courage, he needs to be a protector, he needs to provide, he needs to have temperance, and he needs to have faith. Those are the five building blocks. Those are the five virtues of a good man. So to me, the best place a mother can put her son is in martial art, because you're hitting two birds with one stone. Not only are you surrounding him by men, you're also showing him how to be a protector, how to eventually like build the skills to become a protector. So to me, it's a no-brainer. But you see that a lot in sports. One of my favorite movies is Coach Carter with Samuel L. Jackson, which is based on a real story. I don't know if you've seen it, but great, amazing movie. But basically, the guy's a successful entrepreneur. He has a business, and he's invited to coach a basketball team in a very poor area, basically the same high school he comes from. Like, he used to study there, but he made something out of it himself. He's asked by the coach that's retiring to take his place. And he explains at one point in the movie that the only reason he took it is because he wanted to impact change in a very specific group of young men. So basically, what he does is he takes basketball, which is a shared passion that both the coach and the players have, and he teaches them life lessons through the teaching of basketball. And this to me is what a great coach does, especially men when it comes to coaching. If you hear of very high players, it doesn't matter that it's Michael Jordan, for example, in basketball, he will say the same thing. Like, great coaches will see something in you that you did not know was there. And they will show you how to utilize that through sports, but in lessons that you can apply in everyday life that will eventually make you a good man. And this is what martial art did to me. I've met guys that to this day we're still very good friends. They're more my peers now than they are a mentor. But it all started there. It all being surrounded by other men. Like, if you look at rite of passages, we've had rites of passages forever. It is just in recent history, like 50 years now, 100 years, that we don't have that, especially in North America. Like, the only real rites of passages that we still had was the Boy Scouts. And now the Boy Scouts, girls are allowed in Boy Scouts, which is completely insane, absolutely insane. The whole point of Boy Scouts is to have young men be surrounded by other young men and oversight, like being taught by more mature men that know what it is to be a man. And this is what our boys need. We need single women need to find, or single mothers, should I say, need to find places where those boys can be around other boys and not feel that they need to act like little girls. Boys, roughhouse. I'm 41 years old. Put me in the same room as a martial artist. I guarantee you at one point we're going to wrestle. We're going to smack each other. And it's playful. It's just, this is what we do. It's just very playful, but men are physical. We're very different from women. We don't deal with our emotions the same way. We don't deal with each other the same way. We like a bit of violence. Unfortunately, we are violent by nature, but you don't learn to control your violence or to be tempered by being scared of it. You embrace it and you learn how to control it. And martial art did that to me. So, does that make sense what I'm saying? Because it's such a pivotal point. Sports is such a pivotal point. Men need to gain control over their body.
Nick, it does make sense. I'm curious from your perspective, has there been a slow decline? I'm going to use that term, sliding away from men being servant, protectors, providers. Has that occurred over like a 10-year period or so, or has it just too long, been much longer than that?
Probably, I would say at least a 20 to 40 years the decline has started. There's studies that shows in the 70s and the 80s the government got involved and started saying that women, they would provide money to women if they divorce if they're divorced the fathers. The message is very clear when you look at it. We don't need men. We'll replace men for you. This is when this started. I think it's at the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, when the switch, men has started to be perceived as a money sign, not for the values that they bring to the family, but just as, oh, the government can replace him. Oh, that's okay. He's going to give me a pension. I'm going to have money for the kids. It's okay. I don't have to worry about that because that's all we do, right? Men are only useful to provide money. This is the idea. So it's been going on for at least 20 to 40 years. Can you really blame men today, boys today, that they don't understand those simple principles as serving? On one side, you have the society that's trying to make men and women equal, as in, because this is something that really irritates women, but men and women are not equal, because equals means the same. If you look at the definition, it means that we're the same. We're not the same. Should we be equal in the face of the law? 100%. But men and women are not equal. We're not the same. When you look at the whole picture, is where the issue is. We are not the same, and it's okay. We're supposed to be like that. We're supposed to not be the same. We have skills that are different, and we need to accept them. And we need to build upon them. We need to find people with deep-rooted values, and that's what we're missing in men today. Because being a man is, there was a woman that transitioned to become a man. She was a French woman. I'm writing about her in my book, actually. But all to say that she transitioned for a year and a half. And you see the interviews of her as a man. She committed suicide because she couldn't believe how hard it is to be a man. All the things that women take for granted on a daily basis that men provide for them, and the way that we treat them. Because if you look at most men out there, we want to take care of women. We want to take care of children. We like to take care of, we like to feel that we're helping protect them. This is in our nature. This is like coded in our DNA, but it is hard to be a man. And especially in the day today where men are not respected for what they bring to the table. I'm very puzzled as to how young men, I understand why guys like Jordan Peterson are so impactful in the life of young men, because he kind of brings it into perspective to say that there are things to be a man. It is not hard. It is not easy to be a man. Like, to say that you're supposed to serve, you're supposed to be selfless, you're supposed to put others before yourself, you're supposed to protect your family, your loved ones, your community, you need to be dependable. This is basically saying that you need to be accountable for your actions, and God knows we're not accountable for anything anymore.
That's very well said. I want to unpack just a little bit further the deep rooted values. Is it almost necessary to write the values down to which you ascribe, live by those principles, those values, and you must be determined and have that purpose that I will be the man God created me to be? Is it something of that nature?
Read the Bible. It's really not that complicated. Just read the Bible. I'm rereading the Bible right now, cover from cover. I'm writing about, and I speak about this all the time, the 5 virtues of a good man. I didn't invent anything here. Those are Christian and Stoic principles. I'm a big fan of Christianity. I'm a big fan of Stoicism. To me, they go together. Like, they're very, very intertwined. I just took very old principles and I re-explained them in a way that makes sense today, but I'm trying to keep religion out of it. As much as I'm a Christian, I am a Christian. I believe in every single value that is taught in the Bible. I want to initiate people, especially men, to the principles that Christianity teaches without talking about Christianity. Because we have a massive bias when it comes to Christianity. There's a massive black cloud on top of Christianity because we have gone away from what the Christian values actually are. This is why I'm saying that I'm not your typical Christian, because I did not come up from the church. My family is not church based whatsoever. I started going to church about 14 months ago. Prior to that, I can count on one hand the amount of time I had stepped into a church in my life. So I'm not your typical Christian, as in I don't believe in denomination. I believe in the Bible. I believe in following Jesus Christ. I don't believe in what the Catholics say or what the Protestant or the Baptists say. I believe in what the Bible says. I believe to be more like Jesus Christ. I'm not trying to reinvent Jesus Christ to fit my values. I try to fit Jesus Christ's values. And this is what I'm trying to do. So, yes, it should be written. Yes, you should know what your deep rooted values are, because how are you supposed to find a partner that shares those deep rooted values if you don't know what they are? If you don't know what yours are?
Totally agree. Do you speak? Do you address everything we're talking about in this podcast? If a listener would want you to come in and speak to their company, their group, how would they reach you?
This is definitely the next step, but this is why I'm writing the book right now, because it's always, I'm writing my second book in 2 years, and that's why. Because it's a great, I don't want to say marketing tool, but it is a great marketing tool to say, here are my ideas, check them out. But this is the next step. Is you can go to nicolagan.com, all my stuff is there. And but this is the next step, is to start traveling more and to speak to this to young men, to speak to single mothers. I'm going to start attacking the single mother movement, not attacking as in going against it, but attacking as in getting more involved in it, and probably be extremely hated for it. But this is my goal this year, is to jump into that movement and try to help single mothers put their sons first instead of their ego.
I don't want to change subject or anything, but these women that say, I don't need a man, I'm going to say they didn't have a father figure to show them what a man is. And so they're going to do it on their own. I would love for somehow it would get the message that this is an issue you have, a subconscious thing in your subconscious that you have, and try and work through it to help sons. But there are fathers that have daughters that are not fathers at home, and that can affect the need for that daughter to go after someone that's not really the best for them.
Mothers are the first love of their sons, and vice versa. Fathers are the first love of girls. If I say this to guys all the time, if you're going on a first date, the first question you should ask the woman that you're meeting is to describe her fondest memory of her father. If she gets irritated, she gets pissed off, she gets really irate, pay the bill, get out of there. That woman has never dealt with her past. That woman does not have a good view of men in general, because if the relationship with her father is still affecting her that much, she's never healed that point. To your point, actually, she's never done the work. And the same is true for women. If you meet a guy for the first time, ask him, what's your fondest memory of your mother? And the same is true. So there's a lot of work that needs to get done. We don't choose our parents. And as good as a father can be, nobody's perfect. As good as a mother can be, nobody's perfect. So they will have shortcomings. We all do. And this will leave an imprint on their children. So there's work that needs to be done in order to amend the past. You need to be able to sit down and see, okay, those are my shortcomings. Those are the things that I need to work on. Yes, they're not my fault. Those are things that are generational, that were given to me by my parents, or their lack of, but it doesn't take the accountability away from the person for me to say, I need to work on those things, no matter the reason why they affect me.
Nick, as we bring this in for a landing, I want to encourage our listeners to engage with us, to give us some ideas what we need to do to help get the word out. I want to be an encouragement to men. It's not my point, and I don't think it's yours either, Nick, to hammer men, but we need to be able to stand up, move out, be strong in a courageous way. That is what God created us to be. Let's be the man that He created us to be. Have the courage to make what may be some unpopular decisions, but we can learn from each other. Marty and I are very operative with the term together. Together we can learn. Together we can become stronger. With the Lord as our guide, He can lead the way, and if we are willing to follow, we can be the people He intended us to be. That is how I'm perceiving what our role is to be.
Amen.
Nick, thank you very much for everything that you are doing. Let's continue this journey, and let's have an even greater impact. We appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life's experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.